Hello, my name is Armin Mervar, and today I'm going to demonstrate an exciting project about ABB robots, which can write down some letters using two different methods, using AutoPath and also the programming code into ABB RobotStudio. So at first, going through the AutoPath, I have defined a pen tool, which I imported the 3D model, and also I defined it as a library, which can be defined as a tool and can be shown also here as a tool, which has its own coordinate system. And we will go through with that coordinate system with the object that I've defined, which is A3 table, as well as MDX letter. I have imported all of these, and which they are the same orientation of the pen tool that I've defined. After that, let's go here. We can see that we have tool data as pen tool, work object as drawing table, which you can see there are a lot of defined points with the same orientation as the tool object has, and it is very important to do this, as well as my path, which I have defined an auto path for a frame for M letter, D letter, and X letter. And then one by one, I define them in a specific sequence to make sure that they will do in the right way in order to write down the letters and the frame in the correct sequence. So there are a bunch of movements such as move J and move L, as you can see. And for the whole procedure, it will go through one by one until the end of here. And this is how my autopath are defined. As you can see, if I tap on View Robot at Target, and you can see that it will first start from P home, then and point above the first point of frame, as I have defined it P offset, and then the other points, which goes through the frame, after that going back to the offset point, and then starting to the offset point for the M letter. And the same will happen while it is done. It will go for D and then for X. So all of the procedure, some kind of similar, and it will be repeated until it is done. The other procedure that I have defined, as you can see, I have already synchronized the all the points here for the autopath, which can be observed here as local procedure my path, which is relevant to my autopath. All of these movements that you could see there are now synchronized to rapid and are defined here. But for the programming, I have chosen just some reference point that it had been defined from AutoPath, such as P home, P1 offset, and M1 offset, D1 offset, and also X1 offset. I used them, and then I tried out to define them with the manual procedure, as you can see. And move J to P home, and then move J to P1 offset, which was above the starting point of the frame. I try to comment them that how and what they are meant to do, drawing the letters, moving back to the first point, and it is repeated until it gets done. So I have chosen correctly the Z or zone definition. For example, for the move L, which needs to be the robot arm, the tool should be on the exact point of that point and we have defined it definitely as a linear movement, move L, we need to define zone as fine without any definition of diameter for zone. But for example, for move J, it didn't matter to be Z100 or even Z50 here. So I chose them correctly, as well as for drawing, I used to use the lower velocity, as it is 100 for drawing, but for moving, which is the tool is not on the paper, it is free to do it more quickly. So as you can see, for move J, I have defined it V1000. As for drawing, it is V100, 10 times less. And yes, it will be done. For the procedure itself, for the proc main, I have defined some variables, some constant numbers. For example, for programming, I have defined 1. For AutoPath, I have defined 2, and also an answer. And then with using TP-Write, it will ask and also indicate some messages to user, such as please choose an option on FlexPendant, which number 1 will be for programming and number 2 will be AutoPath. And then if the user try out to use the drawing path, if the user answer 1, it will go for drawing path. If answer 2, my path. Else, if it is invalid, it is not one of these 1 or 2 option, invalid number entered by user, it should say it is invalid selected option and then go back to main and retry the procedure. So this is the main code that I've done, and we shall go for simulation to see if that works. So we shall head to simulation here. Let's make it visible. We tap play. As you can see, it can now shows up that it is asking the user that if the user wants to choose the programming as entering number 1 or AutoPath as entering number 2. So I choose programming for first time at first, okay, and it will try it out to go through the path that it is defined. And as you can see, all the points that I have defined for the coding rapid into the drawing path procedure, and as you can see, it will go line by line. There are, offset on the main, on the basis of reference points, such as M1 offset or D1 offset or P1 offset, which I told you before, it was just in point just above the reference point, the beginning point of those letters, which could help me out to define the other points out of those references. For example, I say that move J to this offset, and then I defined it that, for example, the 0, it's 50 value above the first point. Then I chose minus 50 for the Z axis, for the all of them, as you can see. And the other one, which I chose them using these calculations. I mean that these numbers, these measurements that could help me. For example, this is the first point, then this is the second point. So it will go 200 above, still the same x-axis, and something like that. For me, for this program, this axis would be the x-axis, and this one would be minus y. So I did pay attention to that values, which you can see that for y-axis is all a negative point, as well as z. But for the x values, it is all They are all positive numbers, which can be relevant to your axis here, as you can see. For example, as you can see, the global axis this way, which I showed you, this way, it would be the plus or positive direction of x-axis. But on the other hand, here, this way, which goes through the letter, it is exactly the opposite direction of y, as you can see. And also when we go below, it will be the opposite direction of z-axis. That's why this happened. And we need to choose carefully about all of these numbers as well as their positive or negative. So going back through the simulation again, if you press play again, and then you try out number 2, it will go through again for the autopath. And for this one, I have chosen a velocity 200 to just make you recognize and feel the differences between the programming procedure and autopath, which for programming, the velocity was 100, but for autopath, it is 200. So that is, the definition of those two programs. If the user try to use invalid numbers, it will go back to the main point again, as well as it will asking for the programming again. And if you still convey the right number, which is 1 or 2, it will start again. Thank you for watching and all the best.